Okay, it's going live. Okay, we are live. Hell yes. Just shoot your camera a bit to the side, brother. You're off shot a little. Yeah. Okay, hopefully people are picking us up. It's broadcasting to Primal Man Project, to my Facebook, and to Alex Kenny. Okay, not sure if anybody's online with us yet, but we're going to crack on. So, for those who don't know me, my name's Jason Blewett. I'm a coach, and I'm the founder of the Primal Man Project, which is a movement that helps support men live happier, healthier, more fulfilling lives. And tonight, on the first of what I hope is going to be an ongoing series, is a chat today called Seeking Counsel. Seeking Counsel is the series, and it's about finding men who have an important message, something worth listening to. And a mate of mine, a new mate of mine by the name of Alex Kenny, is a guy like that. We met only a couple of days ago in a social media education program, how to basically promote your business and support sharing your message on social media. Alex is doing really important work in the men's space and men's work. And for those who don't really understand what that is, we'll dive into that today. So Alex Kenny, he is a coach, and like myself, works exclusively with men. And he's had an awesome journey. I'll get him to talk more about how he's arrived at where he is, but he's got some really important things to share around sexuality, intimacy, strengths, playing to people's strengths and understanding what your strengths are. And we're going to have an amazing and wide-ranging conversation today. So some of the things we're going to be covering: nice guy syndrome. What is that? Why is that an issue for men today? Sacred sexuality. So what is it about modern culture that's created a really dysfunctional relationship with sexuality? What are men taught as role models around the way to connect and be intimate with women? Alex has got some great wisdom in that space. We're going to talk about rites of passage and ceremony, and some of the things that Alex and I really align with are how much we are missing in our modern society. Alex, welcome, buddy. How you going, brother? Good to see you, man. Long time no see.
Long time. That's it.
Right. So, rites of passage
I don't know
and
what happened.
ceremony were a couple of the things I just was about to finish the sentence around when you jumped on. Yeah, man, we're going to have an awesome chat. This is going to be like the conversations we've had already, and we're just sharing it with an audience. I just talked about the fact that we've got such a shared, aligned vision. I've given you a bit of an intro, but brother, why don't you just give us the 30-second elevator speech? Who is Alex Kenny?
Everything and nothing. So
Perfect.
where do I start? Oh no, just I suppose coming from just traditional emphasis on the hyper masculine, like, you know, that sort of framework with sport and construction, and like this sort of stoic, just a stoic sort of lifestyle and stuff like that, where it's always like the sporting mask was a lot of what I wore a lot of my life. You know,
you were an elite athlete, bro, for a while, yeah.
Yeah, or not Olympian level, but yeah, just pushed the envelope as much as I could with different sports. So I wore that mask a lot, like that identity, and yeah, everything sort of journeyed when that came to an end, and like the transition into other just into other areas of life that actually, you know, the balance of there's actually more to life than sport and winning trophies. So yeah, a lot of and I think that a lot of the frustration or my pain or whatever was just around like not actually letting that go, like not actually accepting that that's finished. So yeah,
I've heard you talk before about identity death. It's not something that, you know, I've heard a lot of people talk about, but you've talked about it in relation to your sporting career, man. What did you mean by identity death, and what does that mean to you?
Just that every single action, thought, behavior, mindset, like, you know, focus, purpose, every single thing was towards just being the best athlete. And so, you know, people invite you to parties and stuff, and you're like, nah, I'm training. Or you know, you don't drink alcohol because you're training. And like, you know, studying sports psychology in spare time, watching the best of the best in each sport and how they do it. So it's literally like a consumption, or like an immersion of all the aspects of being the best human and athlete you can be, which goes across into every area of life. And yeah, like when that stops, that's actually a big deal for athletes. And
Wow.
you know,
So
military
what did
guys as
that?
well. Like, you know,
So with your identity death, what happened then? Like you weren't an athlete anymore. Tell us a story about what actually got you down to the bottom of that, and then how it got you up into men's work.
yeah, the usual story: injuries. Just the body's got limits. And then purely denial. That was the number one, like denying that was that chapter of life was over. So that's denial is just like huge. So yeah, the body injuries, and then actually that denial was just going into like just substance abuse, escapism, addictions like poker, yeah, drinking, partying, so that sort of stuff. Like just literally just driving the behavior of just the unprocessed transition. There was just no ritual around an end of a chapter. So yeah, which led to you know, a few years of that. And then yeah, just like, you know, anxiety, and like, you know, you go to the doctor and they're like, you know, you've got anxiety, take this tablet, which literally just turns the lights down on your emotions, so you just dull, so you can just get through life. And yeah, then those thoughts and stuff, you know, being isolated like the lone wolf. Um, yeah, like your own thoughts can really just attack, and your own demons attack you with like just a mental, just like torture, like yeah. And like, you know, look at, there's 9 guys that kill themselves every day in Australia, like at the end of their rope. And I can actually see why. Like I've been there in that position.
Tell us about
I
that.
just like that.
What was that for you when you say you've been there? Where is there?
So when I say there, all that is not seeing any other possibility.
Wow.
So there's no other options left, or yeah, there's just no other possibilities. So
Wow. So
which is a
so
pretty
describe
dark
this.
place.
That's an awful
Yeah.
place, man. Describe, if you can, if you're comfortable to, man. What, like, describe that moment. I haven't experienced anything like that specifically. I've got other stories to tell, which I'll share. But what was that moment for you? Like that rock bottom moment.
We're going straight to it, straight to the
Fuck yeah, man.
core.
Let's get there. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Um, just give me a sec. Just thinking back to it. Shit, I didn't know we were going to go straight to that.
Let's do this,
Yeah,
man.
I was like, there was just like, don't want to don't want to burden anyone with like, you know, complaining or whinging or being a victim. That like what I'm dealing with is literally like doing my own head in. So and just knowing like there's just too much, you know, no idea about emotional regulation, and just being driven by all these different thoughts, completely distracted, not present at all, not seeing anything other than being an athlete. So there's just like, where's the future? There's no future. So yeah, it's just like that experience. And then I had a really good like upbringing around, probably generally optimistic and positive. And then I went, okay, I need to get help. And that's when I went to a psychologist, and this is like 4 or 5 years ago. And that was the first time I actually sat down and actually like got some things like off my chest. And
Wow.
it actually I felt lighter after it. And it's actually an experience to get something off your chest. Like there's like energy came off my chest. So
Wow. So 30-something years of life,
that,
and you'd never actually been able to
yeah,
have a conversation where you could literally get things clear. You'd never had a container, never had a space that you could be in where you were able to share the shit that you'd been through and the stuff that you were dealing with.
which comes down to a highly trained listener with no judgment, no trying to fix, not trying to change, just what is going on. And that was just the first step, to actually hear myself out. And I'm like, wow, didn't know that was, I didn't know I could actually say these thoughts out loud. And I'm seeing that's everywhere in society right now, is that like there's men just don't know how to listen. Or no, it's I'll say that another way. The masculine mind is like, how do I fix this? How do I change? How do I give advice? Instead of I'd say it's the feminine just wants to be heard, just want to vent and have the other person, if you don't talk to yourself, just shut the fuck up. And
yeah, 100%.
And just let them just get it out. And I think that a lot of this, and I'm going to go into this, is that people can only hold space, like can only listen and be with the emotional discomfort, so to speak, that will come up when someone else is sharing some shit that's like, it's like, oh shit, that's a bit uncomfortable, or sadness and anger, or like, fear, shit. They just want to, so they'll deflect it with like humor, they'll dismiss it with other people are worse off. So that's not safe. And I think that there's another thing around like doing that with like close, trusted friends or partner, or a therapist ideally, is a great place to start. And I have a real problem issue. Like I can see it in society. Everyone's like, get vulnerable. But then, your woman actually has to respect you more than she loves you. So you can't be like dumping out everything to her. You have to be responsible for like, do you know what? I'm going to go to my men's circle or an actual therapist and clear it out and be responsible. So there's actually some solid safety that you're not like collapsing. You actually have some sort of roots and strength in holding and leading the family or the relationship. So that's something 100%. That no one talks about. Is like, be vulnerable. That's like, you actually need, there's a line. And I think that people are crossing it, and it's not safe when you go too far the other way.
I think if you don't have the right and responsible place for that to happen, you're absolutely right. People can, and I've seen it, where, even amongst personal improvement and self-improvement groups, people get really vulnerable and share things that are really dark and very taboo. And then it's really painful, because guess what? Even in those circles, not everybody has the space to hold. And I've had somebody share with me recently that, in the men's circle that I run, they would have been happy to share their deepest, darkest secrets, because they know that container, that space is sacred and it's held really powerfully. But I want to go back to your journey, man. So, you shared really vulnerably, and thank you for sharing. I kind of went a little bit unconscious there and was a bit enthusiastic about taking you to a place that it's your journey and it's your share. So I want to acknowledge that I was a bit excited, but it's because I know that you're a man that can get there, and you and I have had these conversations before this, so I'm also aware that you're willing to talk about it. So I just want to honor you firstly for being in the space, and just recognize it. I didn't maybe touch on that as subtly as I should have, but I want to come back to what you're happy to share about your experience from that rock bottom place. You said you got help. So awesome. You found that was a really cathartic experience. Like it was a new place for you to be sharing your journey and your experience and your struggles. Where did it go from there, and how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, so further inquiry and the other aspects of myself. So, you know, getting off the medications was a big thing, because I think that there was a lot of foggy thinking, having chemicals that are not natural through the system. And yeah, just, you know, Chinese medicine, craniosacral, like, you know, just meditation, you know, stopping the mind, you know, like they reckon I've got the hyperactive gift gene, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, just guidance, mentorship, and having, like, you know, older men, wiser men, experienced men, and experienced women, older women mentors and coaches along the way, where you know, literally back to what you're doing, what we do is just anything to do with community. So having people who actually care and listen, and actually sharing wisdom and stuff like that, and then acting on it. So yeah, just a lot of different things where I had a mentor challenge me around, I couldn't sit still, or my brain's fast, around going to do a 10-day silent meditation. And I hadn't
You've
meditated
done a
1 hour in my
10-day.
life.
You've done a silent retreat.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was
What was
a
that
challenge.
like, man? I'm man. I can imagine that was tough. I'm really curious to do it, man. What was it like?
Yeah, it was so I, 2 or 3 times I had a thought about throwing a chair against the wall, but you know, it was a thought and not a pass. But then most of it was just like the challenge of just being with nothing.
Wow.
And giving myself permission to just do nothing. That in itself is actually a big breakthrough, because I think that no one, you know, men are literally performance objectified in today's society, where if you're not producing anything, you're not worth shit. So that's a cultural thing. So, you know, the shame or the judgment around actually recharging and actually having rest, giving your nervous system, your emotional body, and your mind an actual break. You know, we get our cars serviced. I just see it as like a mental, you know, like an oil flush of like just silence, no technology, nothing. So yeah, it for some people that have real big breakthroughs, and you know, it's challenging. But I just saw it as a challenge where I wasn't leaving, and I'd recommend it. I'm going to do some more probably before if we can still do it with all this, you know, social people around and shit.
So is that a
yeah, I
Vipassana
recommend
retreat?
it, man. Yeah.
That sounds powerful. Yeah, I just want to acknowledge a few people that have jumped online. So, g'day Jimmy, hey Tim, George, Danny, Beth, my queen, Wayne, Lisa, Dan, Ben, and also Taylor. I want to share a comment from Taylor. She's had some great wisdom here. She says, we can't always handle our man's emotions. Sometimes we get what we ask for and it's not what we wanted. It often triggers our own stuff, and we can't separate his feelings from our stories. So I think it's a really great insight, that the modern man is expected to be emotionally, you know, expressive and be in touch with his emotions and share and get vulnerable. But that actually contradicts with the Disney concept of the knight in shining armor, the prince, the hero of the story. You don't see necessarily getting vulnerable. You don't see women, I think, equally to men, are conditioned to think of men as impenetrable and powerful. And yeah, when we get vulnerable, as you said, you've got to be ready to deal with, respect and love a person for falling to pieces. I totally resonate with what you said before. I want to come back to your story, man. So you said that you started to do the work. You really found the importance of actually connecting with other men. What did that look like for you, and how did you find them?
Yeah, so I've always been playing a lot of team sport, so and on construction sites and mining, where I'm always around men all the time, and older and younger brothers. You know, I've always just been around it, so I don't really. I just know how to like just be around it. So that was, you know, going to a men's circle and stuff like that was just very interesting, because it just went to another layer of depth, and I think, yeah, so there's definitely a culture around men not trusting men, like a huge invisible, because there's so much conditioning around you have to compete and compare all the time.
Yeah.
So that definitely gets in the way from guys like actually hanging out with guys if they're not drinking piss, or doing an activity. So, which is, I think it's all perfect. All these different avenues and behaviors are perfect. But from my experience, just seeing that there's some warrior guys out there that actually have that heart connection from the brain heart connection. You know, I've seen a lot of guys who are like swimming in their feminine and nice guy traits, where they're in their feeling all the time, and there's no spine, there's no guts, there's no balls connection, and that's the part I think that society's gone wrong, is that it's either or. It's either you're a nice guy or you're hyper masculine, and I think that what needs to happen is this huge. It's just integrating all parts, that you need to have the ability to put firm boundaries down. You need to be able to say no. At the same time, being able to not suppress what's going on and just feel, because it's really, it can affect relationships, especially intimate relationships, because it's into me see, into I see, into you I see, like into someone you can't see if they're not getting real about the core. And I think that there has to be I love the contrast me and my partner have. It's beautiful, where we can dance between the different pendulums, and that's just part of being a human being, I reckon. I think that a lot of people are like pigeonholed, or I'm not like that, or I can't go there. It takes a bit of courage to go into different ways of being and explore that. And if people have safety or people around them that can facilitate that, then how are they ever going to experience that without substance?
Yeah, I want to. That's an awesome point. I really agree with you, man. And you've covered so many bases in there. I want to jump into one of them that you raised, is this nice guy syndrome. This idea that modern men have been emasculated, and I want to hear your thoughts. But what I understand about that concept is, and I want to frame up that I think it was really, really important to have the feminist movement. I absolutely 100% acknowledge that men have been in positions of power and authority in the most part, and often, and in a lot of ways still are. I think the patriarchy was a thing for a very long time. I know that's pretty controversial about whether it still exists, but the reality is men had a pretty good run for a long time in a lot of ways, and it was really important for women to really step up and change that. And I think in a lot of ways, the pendulum has actually swung too far in some respects. And I think that's where the nice guy syndrome comes up. And I think men who are embodied and who have a firm awareness of where boundaries are in a respectful and a clean way, and express their truth, say what they want out of life and out of a relationship, get labeled as aggressive and get labeled as the negative masculine or the dirty masculine. And there's certainly a lot of that around, but I think you're right, man. There's a whole generation of men, and I was one of them. I was less in touch with my masculinity before I started to do my own personal growth work, because I saw that women liked men that were in touch with their feelings, that did stuff like cook and could speak about nice things in a nice way. I actually used it in an unconscious way, and I'll share a bit more about that later. But I was underhanded in seeing deliberately that I could use these effeminate qualities and these sensitive new age guy kind of traits to actually seduce women. And I think that's conditioned around the fact that women actually are told to look for that. They're told to look for the nice guy.
How did that go for you?
Oh, not well, man. I didn't have good relationships with men. I didn't trust them. I would compete. I would have been scared of a guy like you. I would have been intimidated by a dude with a big beard, shaved head, and now I just see this beautiful human with this big heart and just an awesome message to share with the world. And you know, the moment you open your mouth, I can hear that you're a man of integrity and a man of honor, and I'm not afraid of you. I met you 4 days ago, and I fucking love you, man. And that's an expression and a way of me interacting with men. You know, I think there's a beautiful intimacy in a connection that a man can have with a man in a non-homosexual way. And when I say intimacy, I mean like looking into a man's eyes and holding and feeling the power that you each have in the respect for each other. And there's no looking down, there's no averting gaze, there's no feeling awkward. You just stand and be in the presence of a man who's powerful, who's connected, who's centered, and if shit goes down, he has your back. And if you messed with him, he'd make you know about it, but he's not going to come across that boundary of yours either. And that's a beautiful thing that I've discovered since doing this work that is completely unique. I used to have way more, open relationships. I used to have more connected relationships with women because I could share what I thought and felt. I could tell them actually how I felt about my feelings and I wouldn't get judged. Whereas I was associating with dirty masculine men. I went to an all boys boarding school. I didn't find good, clean men where I could say, hey, this is breaking my heart. Hey, I'm really struggling with my emotions, and be held and respected and then called forward. And that's the piece I think that a lot of people don't get in men's work, is that we all sit around and cry and then we hug each other and then we just do more crying. And then, when I came back from my men's retreats and workshops, my partner would be like, what the fuck do you guys do up there? Like, go in the bush, go for 4 days, you come back with bruises, you come back with like carpet burn, and it's weird. What are you doing? And I'd be like, no, happens on the mountain, stays on the mountain. You're not getting in. It's men's business. And, we can talk about the workshops that you've been to as well. I think, we've had a pretty similar journey. But the point I was going to make is that, that's something I discovered, that really good, clean, masculine energy where you get to share, you get to be, you get to play, you get to rumble. And I wouldn't have it any other way now, man. I absolutely love it.
Which is, yeah, definitely. It's like, it sounds like we both came from a different, like polarity or extreme, and then like more into the integrated in both like flavors. Yeah, because and that's literally, I think that all that it is, like, like the movie The Matrix and like Fight Club, the theme around like breaking out of something, right? So breaking out of the framework that we've been given in a fatherless society of unpresent fathers, lack of discipline, lack of boundaries, lack of fierce love, like what the fuck is this, and actually addressing the behavior and not just collapsing and like, oh, my identity, like actually taking and giving feedback, I think is a really masculine trait that's just lost in society. Which it just goes into this whole, the nice guy thing's like a cuttlefish. Have you ever seen Cuttlefish Mate in YouTube? It's fascinating. Like they just go, they pretend they're a female and they go underneath. And they look like a female and they go into it, and yeah, it's very covert. But yeah, back to the nice guy thing. It's literally an epidemic. I think, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's ridiculous.
How does it show up, do you think? And what is it? And what does it do?
Female validation, people pleasing, agreeable, not being straight up and honest with what you want, not knowing what you want and need, and actually saying, I want this, I need this, and being responsible and having and making those things happen. So yeah, avoiding confrontation, avoiding any sort of uncomfortable conversation, really, which you got to access a bit of courage to actually have an uncomfortable in that moment when I have to have an uncomfortable conversation with my partner. You know, the temptation to just I just won't ask for something or straight up. You know, accessing like, you know what, I'm gonna just stand here in my spine and actually just go, I want this, I need this, this needs to happen. You know, but in a respectful, loving way. It's just we just aren't taught that. It's like, you know, because it goes back further with like how mothers are raising boys, and there's no initiations for men. There's no older men community feedback. You know, physical wrestling, older brothers tackling each other, like it's odd, you know, and even like a little boy, like just like yeah, like, you know, yelling or having anger. There's so much like you're too much, suppress that, stay calm. Yeah, just that's too much. You just yeah, you know, instead of going, you know what, fuck yeah, go for it, like let it out, because that could actually protect all of us at some point, or you know, at least he's in touch with his power of having those uncomfortable conversations.
It's like a wild animal versus a domesticated one. And Sean's catching the phrase here, getting undomesticated. And I love that. It's actually getting outdoors, getting dirty. And also, it doesn't necessarily have to be a wild man that hunts his own food and traps and kills his own animals. I mean, there's a version of that that's awesome. But just living life inside of a comfort with some risk and with some clean, masculine fun. And I've only recently got into this because I was, as I said, on the opposite side. And I can see why there's domestic violence in an environment where parts of our masculine energy are contained and constrained. You know, I love playing squash because it's super physical and you can get as fucking angry and you can whip the skin off of that ball as hard as you want and it's still going to go in and still coming back. And the sound's powerful and the movement and the energy and I always wondered why my old man used to love this game when I was growing up as a kid in the 80s. Squash was massive, but it was because it was so physical and so intense, and it was great place to put that energy. And you know what? Squash courts, you can't find them anymore. It's not a popular sport, and I don't think we have avenues for it as much. That physicality, that play and rumble and wrestle. I know 0 men that currently play for a rugby club as an adult that have social rugby. You know, other countries have a great culture of physical contact sports, but, you know, how do you create a container where men can go away and be with other men and actually have something that's physical, that's challenging, that's interactive? And the only place that I found that was men's retreats, men's workshops. And I know you've come through, it's funny, you and I have had this conversation where we're like train tracks. We've come on parallel paths from a completely different place and we've kind of intersected in the middle. You know, I've come from a white collar background, you've come from a trades background or a blue collar, and yet we've both come to this place where we're men's coaches, and you've come from the Mankind Project, which, you know, I'll invite you to tell people about, and I've come through Real Education, the real men workshops, and yet here we are, you know, intersected in the middle, believing there's a challenge with masculinity, that we don't have a healthy relationship with our masculinity, we don't have a place to express that men need to have places to express themselves just with men, where they're not burdening their families and they're not unloading on people unconsciously. And they're not flipping people off at the lights because they're so fucking pent up with rage. I see guys who drive up the lights, they're like, oh, fuck you, you cut me off. I was like, man, just like old school, go and dash a pillow, brother. Like go and rage yourself to sleep at night just to clear that stuff out. It's
definitely. It's crazy.
Tell me about the Mankind Project, man.
The warrior training. So there's like a 3-day initiation. It's awesome. I don't know what's going on now with all this, all the have to wear a mask and 2 meter distance and all that. I don't know if it's going to happen ever again. So it's just like a modern day rite of passage where you actually, you know, in the old days it was like the tribe would take the teenager away and, you know, to the mountain away from his mother and that, and actually go through some challenges, which require like you to access and wake up parts of yourself that are dormant, especially in today's society with computer games and stuff, and lack of physical you know, connection and wrestling and stuff like that. So yeah, it's like, it's an experience that I think men need to do around the community acknowledging you that you're now a man, and some tools and covering different aspects of yeah, being a man. And that, you know, if guys haven't had proper mentors and fathers, you know, solid mentorship, it's crucial, because the suicide rate's like 9 guys a day, and that was before COVID. And I think that it just goes down to having older men, mentors, and other men around from all walks of life to you know, challenge you and face some stuff that normally gets skipped over if you don't have a solid role model who covers all the areas of being a man and a responsible man and stuff like that. So that's probably the best way I can explain
that. Totally agree that, you know, men are raised, we go through adolescence, and we have this like huge number of adolescents actually die from accident because they are trying to do stupid shit like jump on trains, or they go and take drugs, or they drive cars, and they take risks because their adolescent brains are actually designed to do stuff like that, do physical stuff, and go through rites of passage that we used to have. I grew up in Papua New Guinea, and in the Sipik, which is a place in the north where they live along a river, they slice the skin of the young boys with razor blades, and the scarring that comes up makes their skin look like a crocodile because of the way their Melanesian skin scars. And that they will spend typically 2 to 3 days doing this process of initiation, and you see it's absolutely horrific. These dudes are just chewing on these betel nut leaves and chewing on this anesthetic to try and alleviate the pain, and the tears are coming down. These kids are just getting brutalized, and it looks barbaric. But the young boy will only go to that process when he decides he wants to and he's ready. And after he goes, go.
That what you just said then, I honestly believe that there's men want to be they want to test themselves to see what they're made out of. And I think that's an initiation in itself, like to go to something you don't know. You're like, you know, oh, like what's going to happen here? Shit. And to go, you know what, I'm going to test myself around. You just surrender to the challenge that's put in front of me. And what was it like for you? What's real man like? How can you capture that?
Oh, look, I think a lot of the things we're talking about are encapsulated really well in the real education program. So I owe a lot of my personal growth pop. You know, I had my pop moment at the workshop, at the Real Man workshop. So I'd recommend, if anybody really wants to have a massive breakthrough, you know, those retreats, be it Mankind, be it Real Man, they're amazing. And a lot of these themes, you know, they recognize, which I really deeply believe, that there's a big part of who we are that's completely missing. We evolved for hundreds of thousands of years as a species, and we lived together in tribes. We lived outdoors, and we moved so much more. We hunted for our food, and we lived communally. And now we live like battery chickens. We jam ourselves into apartment blocks where we're under fluorescent lights for most of our lives. We're sitting at desks hunched over. We're eating food that came out of a packet, and we live on our own. We're in apartments on our own. We got 28 apartments on each level, and every person sitting in their apartment on their own, eating their frozen meal, watching Netflix, and no one's talking to each other. And then they go and work out in the gym downstairs, running on a treadmill, staring at the wall. You know, this was me. Like, hands up, I lived in an apartment in the city. I 100% was fat. I 100% didn't have tribe. I 100% ate fast food and takeaway and all that shit. So I'm not throwing stones. I was the guy. I was in a super unhappy marriage. I was disconnected from myself. I was, had a bad relationship with alcohol, and I went outside my marriage because I was unfulfilled and disconnected from myself. Didn't have tribe of men. Didn't have a place to go. Didn't have a community. And yeah, it was fucked. So yeah, coming back to your point around Real Man, my journey to get there was I'd had this really shit time. I'd had a divorce that was pretty traumatic for me. My ex-wife had mental illness that she struggled with, and she had substances that she relied on to self-medicate. You know, looking back now, I can understand that, but at the time I didn't. So a lot of challenges there. You know, I remember the morning that I came out and found her in a really awkward position. I thought she just passed out drunk, but then I could see that part of the couch was underneath her side, and it was really awkward. Like, it was no way she could have fallen asleep that way. So yeah, I actually thought she was dead. So I picked her up, and I managed to get some sound out of her, and we I got it. I called the ambulance and got her off to hospital, and yeah, she'd attempted suicide, and that was, you know, something that I just didn't have the tools, I didn't have the skills, I didn't have any of the things that I needed to deal with that, and that was sort of one of the really traumatic events that happened, and it sort of just got, I won't say worse from there, but it didn't get better. You know, I eventually separated and divorced from my ex-wife, and had just awful traumatic stuff happen in there that I didn't know what to do with. So what did I do? I just carried that forward into my next relationships. I just behaved in a really unconscious way with my ex-girlfriends, and it was always crazy ex-girlfriend, crazy ex-wife, another crazy ex-girlfriend. Fuck, what's all these crazies? You know. Eventually, I had the moment that I actually realized it was me. So that was my rock bottom. An ex-girlfriend messaged me. She said, "You know what? I've done some research of the 12 indicators of a narcissist." She's like, "You meet 9 of them." And I read through, and I actually had an honest moment with myself and realized it was true. Not that that was who I was, but that's how I was showing up. That's how I was behaving. And in that time, 2 different people recommended to me, saying, "You should go to this workshop. It'd be really good for you." And 2 people from different circles recommended it. I was like, all right, this is alignment, and this means I've got to go. So in the vernacular of the Real Man community, we said we went up the mountain. So I went up the mountain. It's sort of a metaphor. You take your shit up the mountain, you conquer the mountain, and actually what you're conquering is yourself. Which, you know, the warrior training and the rites of passage in MKP probably have a similar impact. But yeah, basically that was the pivot point, and haven't done anything else but personal growth and sort of men's work ever since. Like, I've continued to work in a profession, but really my purpose in life was decided at that point. I knew that point, and I went on to do the follow-on workshop, went back to volunteer as crew, and a lot of the guys that are dialed in, listening, George, Wayne, these are all brothers of mine from Real. And yeah, you know, just gone back to every workshop I could to volunteer and to help other men that were going through similar stuff. And you know what I realized? My situation wasn't that bad compared to some of the harrowing stories that I heard, but at the same time, it was. And I had to honor the fact that it was really fucked, and I didn't have a place or a space to deal with it. I didn't have the tools. And now with the Primal Man Project, I'll still continue to do all the work with Real, and absolutely love to go back for as many times as they'll have me. But in between chances for me to get to go back to the workshops, it's about creating a container where guys can still get together and continue to work on themselves and continue to help and support and get better as men, like continue the momentum. I found with these workshops, I'd go, and I don't know if you're, you know, in the similar boat, share it, you know, in a second, but I'd get super pumped, and I'd be alive, and I'd be high in life, and I'd be like, yeah, back into old habits. 6 months later, back up to my same old shit, back into the same addictive processes, back into unconscious relationships with women. And so I was like, all right, I've got to keep going. And between the times when I get a chance to go back, I've got to do something here. I've got to create a space for people to do this, because that's what I needed. If I had somewhere to go in between, that's where I would have done.
And so with that, that event that's quite a shock to the system, the trauma was your word around, like, that, right? So, and you didn't have those places, like what behaviors and like what were your, like, what were the impacts of your daily life from not having a space to actually process that?
Well, it's a really good question, man. So it embedded in me, that was the beginning of a process that was traumatic for me over a period of time. And when my ex-wife eventually left, that's what happened. What I made it mean was I wasn't enough. She left. That means I need to prove that I'm enough. And the way that I did that was just got straight on Tinder. And it was just unconscious relationship with women, just go, as much as I could get, as much of that validation as I could chase, try and fill that space. That was just the emptiness that actually was the wounds from that experience that I hadn't cleared. And, if I'd had the difference, had a different experience and had known or had tools, it would have been a very different outcome. But look, I'm really grateful for what happened, because it meant that I had the lesson that helped to shift my perspective, and now I do this incredible work. How
many other guys? I was going to say, man, how common is that I'm not enough? Like, how I'm not good enough, all that. How often do you hear that?
Man, I still hear it. I had it before I got on this call. Every man who has ever had to step forward, every man I work with. So as a coach, I have a handful of clients that I work with directly. Every single one of them has not enough in their stuff that they're working on. And I deal with my not enough stuff all the time. Sitting here right now, 28 people watching, I've got a column full of people interested in our conversation. I still feel not enough. Still don't feel worthy of all this stuff. But it's beautiful. And I'm sitting in that, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I've noticed that, and it takes so much, a certain level of honesty, like, to actually say it, and then to notice that it's a story. Go, okay, yeah, thanks, and then take action for what you're committed to. And I think that's power. That's where it's at. Still showing up on calls and coaching other guys, and like, okay, that's a great story, and now what? And it's just like every single circle I've sat in, every single man I've literally met, it's like I'm not enough. And when I've also had it, like, I'm a failure, the athlete thing, right? So it's like, holy shit, I'm just a failure. Like, that's like story that was there. And I had like a coach literally say, how could you ever think that, and just reframed it that was a good chapter of life, which comes into, wow, that just opened up everything for me. Just that one conversation.
Wow. So where does your not enough show up?
It comes up every so often. So I suppose, not being, what's it called, like a Tony Robbins, sort of like, he's got like millions and millions of like stadiums filled of, like, fully out there and like making a massive impact. It's like, wow, like that dude is just a full-on warrior beast, like just full king of like transformation. And before that it was like Dorian Yates, who is like a 6 times Mr. Olympia bodybuilder. To the point where I just wouldn't take my shirt off even when I was training 6 days a week, because my chest and my arms weren't big enough, stuff like that. So it's just interesting that it's so common, and it's all around society not actually identifying that we all are individual. And my missus uses the word quirks. We all have our own little, different like things around like what makes us different and unique, and which goes into like, strengths. I'm fully into strength psychology now, where it's like every single thing you can see is literally how your brain fires, and it's like that's actually your greatness. So that's why I love it so much. Like, who doesn't want to talk about their strengths? Who doesn't want to talk about how good they are? Like, in regards
tell me about this strength psychology work that you do. What does it mean?
Oh, so it's with Gallup, and it's all about finding out what's right with you. And it's basically you do this test, and you find out your top 34, the order of the 34, and you focus on. It's a huge shift because it's fairly new to Australia. In America, that they see the value of it, where a lot of coaching is around what you're doing wrong, what's wrong with you, what you can do better. Instead of like focusing on what you're doing right and enhancing that and shining that and aiming that into challenges. So the analogy that I was told is like we're told that, like, to round out and be like a ball basically, whereas strength psychology is like, shine brighter in your greatness, shine brighter, and then whatever your strengths are, they can actually complement mine, and actually
Wow.
work, like, shine together. And that's a huge shift because it's like normally win lose. If someone's great, straight away they go into insecurity, straight away they go into jealousy, and it just ruins the dynamic because of relationships. Because if someone's going great, this bullshit around tall boy syndrome, where but you're doing that wrong, bang, so sledge, like attack, and
Mm.
literally like but that, and then cut them down, instead of like throwing fertilizer on it, or throwing something and actually cultivating shining
Throwing some
brighter.
petrol on that fire.
Yeah, yeah. And so
So
come from that place.
finding your strengths and working to them, and that's part of the Gallup coaching that you do.
Yeah, yeah. And it's all about like what's right with you and what's the challenge, and how can you really act like pull out those weapons and actually aim them, instead of
Mm.
and it's all like who you're being naturally, consistently, effortlessly, at a high performing level. That's what you do, like how your brain fires. And I've been misunderstood a lot of my life because I haven't honed and harnessed my blind spots for my number one strength. And a lot of that's around timing and when to say something. I can be quite emotionally explosive in a group situation, and so that's not perceived well with bosses and authority figures. So a lot of dismissiveness and rejection through people not seeing the greatness of that and how to harness that. So yeah, it's a big learning curve, and it's been amazing to find this modality that just blew my mind. And I love doing one-on-one sessions and like saying, this is your greatness, and like this is why you're awesome. And they're like, oh wow. And then the needs and values that each one of the strengths has. So one of my needs is I need confrontation and initiating conversations to feel fulfilled, because I like to break through things. And and in the right context, you need that. And I've also got like a high energy, so I'm all about like, let's act now. That's my default, but it can be perceived as impatience or urgency. And guys who have high strategic, they're just like, hey, wait, we need to like, we need to take the right action, not just like empty your gun out. So
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 have you found yourself coming foul in jobs and in social settings because you didn't understand that about yourself?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. A lot of conflict with bosses, and yeah, telling what I thought, and it doesn't go very well when they have the power. So, and relationships, and just, but a lot of that was harnessed being a goalkeeper, where I literally yell out commandments like, you left, you right, on a military fit, because you
Yeah,
have to
nice.
be. It's like it's encouraged, and someone needs to do it. And and putting yourself in a situation where you're running at someone who has the ball, and to put throw your body in front of the ball and your teammates and men running at you so that they don't score. So that's like highly confrontational. And so to realize that probably the only place I can do that now is through conversations and people who are open to wanting to break patterns and brain pathways and encouraging them to like access their wild man or their balls and have that uncomfortable conversation.
So basically, it's really a superpower in the area of coaching. This is how you can help people to smash through their own perceptions and then have that uncomfortable conversation. Because then, as a coach, if you're making a client feel comfortable, you're failing. You're not in, if you're in comfort zone, you're not doing a good job. You're not growing. You can help people feel comfortable, or you can help them grow. So yeah, if I haven't, like, I don't mean to sound unconscious, but if a man hasn't cried or sat there and stared with a look of like, holy fuck, or if there hasn't been a moment like that of a big pop, or I haven't actually challenged somebody pretty hard in a coaching session or in the circles I work in, I'm not trying hard enough. So I'm 100%. I think I haven't done it, Gallup, and I'm going to do it, man. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to come to you for what to do now when I do my Gallup Strengths. What are some of your other strengths? Man? What are your superpowers?
By when? When will you do it?
Awesome. All right. By next week, Friday. Let's book it in.
Boom.
Done.
Yeah, there's 34. So there's strategies. Jess, we both know. She said hers is ideation, so ideas. And my younger brothers, that it's actually a gift. It's actually a strength to actually come up with these new ideas, which is amazing. Like, we need idea people. And what else is there? Intellection. So thinking very deeply into something, like into the Earth's core, like how something works. So and
I think I've got a bit of that.
Yeah.
I suffer a bit from like analysis paralysis. One of my things is, okay, I've got this, and I want to get it right, and I want to get it perfect, and then I want to, okay, no, it can be tweaked, and I've also got a decisiveness part of me, but if I have a weakness, it's around that, like holding on too much. I want to get it right. I want to get it perfect. So yeah, I've got to partner with people who test me and push me, just like you did before. When? Fuck the story. Stop telling me where you're going to be or what you got to do or what you're busy. Get it done. When?
I think Jordan Peterson would have strong intellection. He's very amazing at going into the depths of something, how it works, which is why he's so good at debates, because he knows all the ins and outs, and he also studies his people the debates against, like what drives them, where they go. Like, he's just so well armed in argument. Same with Ben Shapiro, that guy. He's a weapon, that guy.
So if people want to find out more about Gallup, where can they go? How do they reach it?
Just go on the website. It's an American website, gallup.com. It's like $80 Australian to do the top 34, and it is awesome because it doesn't change in your whole life. Like, it's
so once they've got their 34 strengths, you then do coaching with people to help harness that result. So they come to you. Okay, what do I do now? That's where you come in.
It's more like claiming it, like claiming how this showed out, the needs and values and the blind spots of that, and how to tweak and harness it. And then literally every conversation after that is aiming it into every challenge. So what's the challenge?
Beautiful.
How can we use it? And then bouncing it off and reflecting, like, this is your greatness. Hey, can you do that? So it's awesome.
Okay. So I'm gonna do it, and anybody listening who's wanting to do it, they go and do it. What do next? Talk to Alex. He can help you destroy your greatness and absolutely own it from there. That's brilliant, man. Brother, I want to talk about something. I think this is really Emma Paul. You're amazing.
Oh, yeah,
Someone's just put the link into the comment. Just love it. We've got peeps who already have our back, brother. We've got peeps in here. This is awesome. Love you very much, Emma.
That's my woman.
Oh, I can love her from afar. I can love her in a platonic way.
She's mine.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. Thanks, Emma. Thanks for having our back. Sean saying he's doing it too. And And Trevor is saying so good. So we must be hitting some chords here, man. I want to pivot into
who doesn't want to talk about how good they are? Yeah, keep going.
Right. How do we find Alex is a question that Alison is asking. So where can we find you, brother?
www.alexkenny.org.
alexkenny.org. Okay, your woman's got your back again, brother. She's putting your URL website into the comments. What an awesome, Emma. Well done. That's brilliant. Hey, man, I want to pivot and I want to come back to an area I think is, again, in your greatness. And one of the things that I've, in this series around seeking counsel, I don't want to be here, platforming the things I think, because just people want to see what I think. They can go and have a look at my Facebook page. I want to bring wisdom that I don't have. And I think something that you've talked a bit about and helped educate me on is sacred sexuality. And you've got some pretty cool views and pretty strong views around this. What is sacred sexuality? What does it mean? And what are you doing in this space?
Let's just cut it down to one word, which is no outcome. Not focusing on outcome.
Yeah, cool. No outcome. All right. What do you mean by that?
So it's basically the education around it to begin with is like around that part of life is just limited, and it's all from the internet, and it's just not how it should be. Like the sacredness around actually being 100% present, and I'm not like I'm interested in this, and I'm not like I don't like run like full international sexuality workshops, so I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah,
just while you're saying that, I want to put a caveat onto all of this stuff because I didn't do that frame up at the beginning. None of the stuff that we're talking about, we're published PhD authors around. This is just two men sharing views. So let's just put that caveat there, blanket, and then you just speak your truth. So you just go, brother. What do you believe?
Yeah, so actually how I met my Mrs. Emma is, we both share the same commonness around, the same interests of, the Neo-Tantra space. And straight away, just the first thing I want to say is that there's literally only 1% of Tantra that's actually around sex. So, just straight away, people just go straight to, it's just hardcore, just orgies or something. It's definitely we just aren't taught just the sacredness around ritual and actually intention. So where is your mind, your intention, the other person's experience of you, your experience of them, going into their experience of literally what is this person experiencing from me? How can I bring as much pleasure as I can? And it's not around an outcome. But just get that out of this space completely, which is it's all the training that a lot of boys have is just it's jackhammer, come. That's literally the training, and I can imagine what that would feel like.
That's so true, right? Man. Just porn, right? Which is I don't want to break your space. You keep talking, but that's the visual and that's the messaging, which is just 70% or 80% of the internet's porn. What's probably 80 or 90% of that, as you say, jackhammer outcome. But yeah, keep going.
Well, I think one thing is to stop and actually think about your woman's experience of that. That's a great place to start. Imagine a woman's experience of that. It's like, fuck, why would you, no wonder there's relationships where they just don't have, they don't even have, they're not interested in it because that's literally the experience that they're getting. And I think one other thing around this that I want to bring up is, I'm still practicing, or I'm still an amateur in all this, really. I don't even know how to measure it, but probably not. But it's just the ability to hold pleasure in the body and just have it just circulate. So have the tension of urges and desires in the body. and as a man, keeping that in our body and not doing anything with it, maybe breathing and the energy and circulating it up from your like sex center up into your heart, so you can actually open your heart more. And this starts to get like sound a bit woo woo, but I don't apologize for that, because this is a part of the human experience which we aren't taught, because people don't have tools to teach this. And so I've gone into experiences of workshops and understandings of my own research, my own personal experience, to figure out this sort of language around holding the attention in the self and circulating it through, and also circulating and honoring and not getting somewhere or focusing on certain body parts, but even just like just the arm for 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Like, who does that? Or just holding hands and kissing, and that's it. Like, that sort of stuff creates so much tension and polarity and desire and energy, and what an awesome experience. Like, people need to be doing this. And so cool, the conditioning around like going out to work and coming back and then wanting like that sort of mindset, or not having education around just honoring our body parts and the experience of language, or expressing your wants and needs, and bringing out fantasies out to your partner, and like expressing these different things, like I like it when you do this, like just a simple I like it when you just touch my beard or something, like just it's just not normally a normal part of conversation, which leads into intimacy, like actually speaking heart to heart, as basic and simple as it sounds, but actually stopping and having heart-to-heart conversations with eye contact, with purely just wanting to actually see this individual in front of you, and even seeing that they're a reflection of you. This is literally the reflection of my feminine, like out in a physical human. And
That's
and
powerful, man. I don't want to break your flow. Keep going with your genius.
But like, there's so much, like, the guys like Man Chia, I don't know how to say his name. There's guys that are really vocal around this that would know way more than me, and it's a lot of like, no one talks about how much minerals, how much energy and life force and vitality and energy, really, that actually is in our human as men, and to actually hold that in as long as we can, to use it. They call it sexual frustration. I just call it like power or life force, to actually harness that into, I don't know, having that uncomfortable conversation, like, having the balls to have that uncomfortable conversation. And I think, I just believe, I've seen and listened, that I think a lot of guys, just the energy is just not in the balls, it's just out. They can't hold the tension and can't hold pleasure. It's always about, just get it out, just get it out. I'm feeling it, just get it out. And then it's just like, you're empty. You're literally an empty vessel, and there's no females are very energetically aware and in tune, and can feel your energy. They can feel what energy you're giving out, and no one talks about this. But and men are like, oh, what's the task? Do. Well, someone's experience of that is, you're not present to start with. You're dismissive. I know I get dismissive. I'm very short, or if I'm in a do mindset, instead of like, how can I be more open, caring, compassionate? Compassion and consideration are the two things I personally am reprogramming my mind to, because I've been in environments where no one cares about that stuff, to blend that in. So where am I even going with this? I'm going with
Yeah,
the
I'm
fact
going to
of
support you here.
other
There's some
people.
incredible wisdom. I want to jump in and share some wisdom, particularly from the women, and I really want to honor the space for them because they're really getting very vocal in the conversation. So Taylor says the sacred and sexual have been separated, and thinks it stems from the sacred and body being separated. And I really relate to her point around the sacred and the sexual being associated with religion and sin. And I think there's a huge case to answer on the part of organized religion in around scandalizing sexuality and making it a sin when it's a really sacred and really intrinsic part of what we are spiritually, is actually to transcend this physical realm. One of the ways we can transcend the physical experience and get in touch with our divinity is through the act of procreation and the act of intimate connection. And if you think about what is the moment that we are closest to God, to the universe, and to source, it is the moment where when we are creating life. And what is the moment if that life is not created in that moment? It's the act of creating life. It's the act that prepares you for creating life. To me, that's giving birth and creating life and death, and birth itself, probably the most divine moments in life. When you are, as a woman, the women here, holding that sacred container of literally the portal between the other world, if you believe in that, and this one, the material realm and the spiritual realm, are gatewayed through a woman's womb. And yet, as you say, and I'm guilty of this, I'm 100% guilty of this, having a really unconscious relationship with a woman's womb, with not taking that sacred energy and time and connection and space to honor her in the way that is such a very powerful place, and the most powerful place that we can be as men, because we don't have the ability to create life. We don't have that gift to carry it in our bodies and to bring it into this realm. And yet so many men, and myself included, spend so much of our time being so inconsiderate, unconscious, and it makes me ashamed, to be honest. It makes me ashamed that I didn't learn this earlier. And even now, as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking, wow, I've got some work to do after we end this call. And it's me putting some time in a really sacred way. I want to share some other comments from these beautiful females who've supported here, the wonderful queens and women. Zoe says, a man that can hold space and energy within himself during the intimacy and connecting into their partner allows the woman to feel safe, be more open into her own pleasure, and therefore she connects to him and life force. Wow. Danny, who's Jimmy's queen, has said, sexual energy really is a space to recharge energy of a being and each other when it's a real connection. Wow, that's powerful. Actually recharging your partner through your sexual connection. This is deep. Danny's second comment is around, yes, the female is the recipient or the receiver of the energy, so it's important to be mindful of the intention and the energy that's going into intimacy. George, a comment representing the men here, absolutely, the divine feminine is so sacred and powerful, and unfortunately, two men don't appreciate that. I'm putting my hand up. I don't appreciate it enough, and if I did, I could do it more. So, man, this is getting some good traction here. So, what other wisdom do you have for the men, in the work that you've done? If you've, just joined this conversation and you don't really know what we're talking about, but you want to try and do something practical. You talked before about spending a long time touching, being physically intimate. What are some other really practical things that a man can learn from you today to help be more intimate with his partner?
I think it's awesome to know like what the values are of each other and what I think it's incredible to know what the strengths are too, like what's driving this human in front of me and what they actually like, how they see the world, I think is crucial. And I think just stopping and actually asking for feedback. So something around, how present am I with you right now? So that's this. So right now, every man to go right now, go to his missus and actually say, look her in the eyes, how present am I right now? And actually take the feedback and out of 10. And do not defend yourself. Do not give a reason or justification. Just take it. And even offer that she gives it to you anytime, or you're being, you're present right now. Okay, well, okay, cool. What's going on? Okay, and then you'll start realizing how unpresent, distracted we are. I'm guilty of this as well all the time. So that's actually the safety and the connection of for men. It's all about presence, and I think that a lot of this goes into like the technology. It's literally taken away our attention, and I'm going through that right now myself. I think I'm got to go through this phone addiction that I'm going through right now myself. So that's something that I have to be way more responsible for also, which takes away the being present and actually engaging. So yeah, presence is a big one, and asking for feedback. Do you like this? What would you like more of? Do you like when I do that? Find, like, you watch a cat, how it scratches itself, and then you scratch it exactly how the cat scratches itself. You don't do what you think.
I like that. Watch the cat and then scratch the cat how the cat wants to be scratched. And I think this is conversations we don't have. And this is all circling back beautifully, and we'll continue this conversation, but just want to segue back to the point about education. We don't get taught the sacred sexuality conversations by older men. If I was sat down in a sacred container, in a really sacred space with men, and told by older men, here, young buck, remember, a woman's pleasure is her right. A woman's pleasure is hers. It's not your responsibility, but it's also not your right to take it from her or to seek it without consent. These conversations, these conscious, intentional and responsible conversations aren't happening. And I remember I got shown how to put a condom on a banana, in sex ed, and we got taught, don't touch me in those parts. I went to an all boys school, so it's probably more worried about the priests and what they were getting up to. So it's like, don't touch me in those places, But then it was like, okay, now use contraception and go away. But no sacred sexuality, no education about pleasure, no. We are like one of the only species, if not the only species, that has an external sex organ just devoted to orgasm. Like the clitoris is an unprecedented organ in all of nature. We are literally a pleasure-having machine. It's like so built into our evolution and our design. Like if you read, and this is a whole separate topic, I won't maybe take it there tonight, but if you read Sex at Dawn, Chris Ryan's book around the human design and how much we were designed to enjoy having sex. And in that book and in that conversation, they talk about non-monogamy. But I won't go there now. The point I want to make is we are so designed to have intimacy and pleasure as part of our biology. And yet it's shamed. Women who want to seek pleasure are slut-shamed. Men who seek pleasure excessively are the same. Men who look at porn are dirty. Women who take too much sex are filthy. And this comes back to Danny's point around sacred and sexual. Now means religion.
I do want to bring up on, and it is fucked. It actually takes away intimacy, especially if it's an addiction and all the sexual urges going over a screen. Like it's
say it again. So you're talking
about
porn?
Yeah.
Okay.
It fucking ruins intimacy. It ruins intimacy. It ruins intimacy. So especially the addiction side of it, where if that's the go-to all the time, and it's a tough pill to swallow, that the training and education and lack of accountability for many years is deeply embedded into men. So it's actually really no one's talking about this. No one is talking about this enough, especially with men. And imagine harnessing all of that and directing it into your woman and doing her love languages so she feels your love.
Yep. I want to come back to love languages because it's such a big topic, and I want to read out a comment from my queen because she's got my back, and I just want to honor her real quick. Exactly. Who is educating men on sex? Are fathers comfortable to have this conversation with their sons? Question. I think the answer is no. There's a reason men are being left to porn to be educated. Our culture needs to create a different avenue for education. Boom. Exactly on your point, bud.
Yeah. And I think channeling sexual energy towards your purpose as a man is number one. Number one. That should be number one before everything all the time. And so then
Say that
it's
again.
actually create that men need to focus on their purpose and get clarity on that. So that's number one, because it's like otherwise there's too much focus on the partner, and she just won't respect you. She has to respect you more than she loves you.
That's interesting. What do you unpack that with me, man? What do you mean by that?
I'm in transition right now, so I'm getting clarity on that for myself. And I know that if I don't have any at all, then there's just no aim, there's no direction, and there's nothing to follow. So that in itself, too much emphasis on the relationship, that can really depolarize things really quickly. And it's yeah, that's a lot of relationships break up because there's not really, in society, there's not much what's the word? There's not much emphasis on boys and men having a direction and purpose, because our purpose is being taken away with all this technology. It's like, well, what's the need for men anymore? What do we need them for? We've got technology and stuff like that. So
well, I think I 100% agree with you around purpose. And it's something that I do when I work with men. Is men need a mission. And there's this really powerful book called Tribe by Sebastian Junger, and it was about military vets returning from war. And one of the things they found out is that men who are in war on the front line actually have fewer instances of PTSD than the people in the rear. So who are like supporting and there, but they don't ever see any combat. Those guys, and men and women, have more PTSD. When they asked the people from the front, what's it like at war? And they said, we knew exactly what we needed to do. We woke up, we were told, there's the enemy. That's the mission, go fight it. And they go and they come back and they're clear. They understand what they're there for. The guys in the rear were like, don't know if we're going to get attacked. We don't know if it's going to happen today. They were in anxiety, but uncertainty. And the uncertainty was actually what created more PTSD and stress. So when a man, particularly because of how we're made, I think, has a mission that's bigger than him, he's got a big fucking hairy, audacious goal, he's getting after it. And he's going, and it's purposeful, and it's driving him. I think, I'm not a woman, but I would think that'd be pretty attractive. Is being with a man who's got a big mission, he's got a purpose. And I'm not speaking as a person who's had really big, strong purpose for a long time. Beginning of 2020 is when I founded the Primal Man Project, and my mission is to directly impact the lives of 500 men in 2020. It's really clear, and I'll know it's either from a retreat, from a men's circle, or from one-on-one coaching. So I have to have had direct impact on that man's life. That's fucking super clear. And I'll tell you what, since I've decided, since I've created, and since I've manifested my purpose, I get up with a lot more energy. I'm a lot clearer about what I want to do. If I have doubt in my mind about what I need to do today or tomorrow, is it furthering that purpose? Yes or no? No, it's a simple decision for me. And I didn't always have that. Like I said, it's new to me, but I'm better, happier for it.
Yeah, that's it. This is what we need to be talking about every day. Every day. And in our circle last night, we brought this up as well. And having accountability towards each week towards our purpose or our mission, like that's where it's at. Like men's circle, actually keeping each other accountable for that. Like to actually have brothers and men around you that want to see you win. Like, I've got like tight circles where it's like people actually want to see me win, and it's like I want to see them win. So that's where it's at. Like,
I want to see you win, man. I want to see some people call you from this and book coaching with you. I'm a coach. So, there's a thing here where I'm like, people come with me, fuck that. I want to see you win. I want people to go and get you coaching with you. I want people to learn from you around sacred sexuality. I want people to learn from you around the Gallup coaching and the awesome work that you do. That's you need to win, brother. I'm putting you here. We're creating this container so you can win. And not many men have this. I have a really powerful group of men that I'm lucky to be a part of. I have a group that I created called the King's Council. And it's just 4 men, and we're all in men's work, and we meet every Friday morning. We hold each other accountable. And if we can help, the question we ask is, what's your wins? What are you struggling with? And the final one is, what can I do to help you? And a couple of the men have been
great
on my streams. It's great questions, man. And it's just super lucky, super grateful to have it. But you know what? Honor myself, because I created it. I didn't have it in my life. And I needed it. And I put it together, man. Nobody waved a magic wand. No one gave it to me. I made it. Sounds like you got the same in your men's circles, man.
Yeah. It's where it's at, man. Like everything you're saying right now, this is the whole conversation. That's why I agreed to jump on this. It's because I know we both have the same values. And look at the suicide rate. There's 9 guys killing themselves every fucking day. Okay, so and then be sharing this stuff. Imagine if you had brothers tight. What's your goal? What are you good at? How can we support you? Connected to your heart and your spine. And your missus, asking your missus, are you present? How's her experience of you? Whoa. There's you can't hide really. They'll kick you in the ass.
Yeah,
so
100%. The comments are the comments are lighting up, man. Women saying, hell yes, it's attractive to have a man with passion, going after your passions and desires. Ian, thanks for dropping in, brother. Having a mission and a clear purpose is manifestation of authenticity. Being your true, authentic self is where it's at. That's amazing. So there's men who are dropping in here, and I'll give some shout outs here because they're 2 brothers I love really dearly, and they're just the ones that are just in my comments right now. George and Ian. I talk to these men multiple times a week. One of them, I went and had a coffee with him, and I said, I want to create this thing called the Primal Man Project. He's been there every fucking call, every single men's circle, every single event. Ian, the same, calls me up. How did it go last night? I couldn't be there. How did it go? Brother, what are we doing next? Where are you getting to next? Neither of these men are profiting or benefiting from this circle. They're not getting anything from it. They're not making money. They're not getting referral fees. They're just here to help me win, but to help me win at helping others win. And holy shit, it's powerful.
It is. It's so needed. It's like, there's no other way really, apart from that intention and that support of it's like steroids. It's like compounding healthy masculine stuff, like the traits of actually stepping up. I have uncomfortable conversations where all the time really from guys. I don't want to have these conversations. I don't want to hear it. That's my ego that doesn't want to hear it. And but that's show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Literally.
100%. And it's, man, resonating everything what you're saying, and I've only had it when I found a mission. I had people that I would call and talk to when I started doing men's work. I'd see them when I went to the mountain. I went over, went to Rio to volunteer to be on crew, and I'd see them, and we'd call and we'd check in and see. Once I actually created a space where hey, I'm creating something for people. This is what I'm doing. Holy shit, the support has been incredible. Friends, brothers, people who, I couldn't have in the past called these people up and said, I want you to come to my house, or at least I didn't think I could, right? So that was the perception. I couldn't tell these, I didn't think I could call these people up and say, come to my house and assemble this flat pack bed for me because my back's fucked. I wouldn't have assumed to do that, but I call them up and say, man, I'm having a men's circle and I really need your energy there. Come with me. And it's let's go. Let's go survey the site before you get there. Let's go and organize the flares and the fire. And this is how you do it. And this is how you run it. Just the people that want to be in support of you, me, when I've started something that's in support of others. And if there's one message from this, from me, is do the thing that you want to do to help others, because people will just turn up out of the woodwork to keep coming in supporting you and keep helping you to manifest your dreams if it's in service, if it's doing good. That's what I've experienced. I was in a business where it was win for me. I was getting good money as a consultant and as working in corporate. I would get benefit from the client. The clients were, I was a consultant that was doing business improvement. So they'd save money, they'd do better environmental compliance, they'd fuck up less and hurt people less. So it was good. It was win-win, but it wasn't win-win-win. The third piece was missing. It's pulling stuff out of the ground. It was polluting the environment. So I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm out. It's got to be a win-win-win. It's got to be win for me, win for the client, and win for the world. And men's work, there's no downside. The men's circles that you run, there's no downside.
Yeah, for sure. Even the time away, it creates polarity and tension. That in itself is awesome.
Back to the polarity. Fuck, I love you, man. You're like, yes, I want to go home. I'm gonna have my woman. She's gonna be ready for me because I'm gonna be charged. Whew. Yeah.
The gift of missing.
Every time I come back from crewing a workshop, the sex is incredible.
It's when you're around the masculine a lot, it's so much polarity there. Yeah.
Oh, dude, and it's like, it's not that being around other dudes makes me horny, but and no judgment against anybody that's their jam, but just the energy and the power and the rawness of the masculine just gets amplified. And I get out into the bush, I go into nature, and I'm on my own. It's awesome, and it recharges my soul, and I feel good. But when I'm with other men and we go to whatever I'm doing, fuck, it just feels fucking good. Like I feel like I feel like the energy is as it's meant to be, and that's this big thing for me. Like this whole philosophy about the primal man, we are getting back to what we were designed to be. It's not that we're gonna now walk around with clubs and wear loincloths and drag our woman by their hair and Fred Flintstone drive cars where we use our feet to propel it. Like, we're not going backwards. It's actually going forwards into the future with things that served, reintegrating the man as he was designed to be, reintegrating parts of our society that we've missed. Tribe, community, a connection. Get fucking primal. Lisa's on there going primal. She's like, yes, she gets it. And I know you get this, man. I know this is part of how you operate as well. You're an integrated man, not afraid to get a bit fucking.
Well, I'm hearing that more and more lately. Yeah, it's not encouraged, that stuff. And if you haven't had brothers and you haven't had contact sport and that, then it's and you're raised by a really feminized like culture for men and for boys, then there's no permission or access to that. So that's the whole reason. It's just. I'm probably even gonna start doing some workshops on that. I'm thinking about it, like, because it's just like,
do it.
I've heard there's different 2 years.
6 months, motherfucker. You're on the clock.
Anyway, there's so many different ways I can take that conversation around. Let's talk. Let's bring this up. Okay, so, what's the most popular movie in the last decade?
Oh, look, are we going to 50 Shades of Grey? Is that where we're going?
As much as it sucks, as much as it's just non-consensual bullshit, whatever. Why is that? You have to ask. You have to find out why, and psychologically, mentally, why that is the most.
Yep.
Like, acknowledge that that's the fact. That's just what people are buying and watching and craving. There's something that we could learn from that, I think, as humans. And well, there's a reason why it sold more books than all the Harry Potter series put together. And I think it was accessing a part of us that we're denying, that we're pretending doesn't exist. Yeah, the shut off. And my teacher, Murray Masrick, the facilitator for Real, he calls it the dark masculine, or the nourishing dark. The nourishing dark actually is his term, right? So riding a motorbike really fucking fast on a track in a safe place, but riding a motorbike is an example he gives, right? The nourishing dark, it's like, yeah, you know what? I'm on the way home from dinner and we come past a park bench with my woman and maybe we don't want to go inside. Maybe we want to make use of this sort of outdoor setting. Maybe we want to go out to a beach. Man, the most amazing
intimate moment I've had in the last however many years was on a beach in the middle of the night, and it was just powerful, nourishing dark. Yes. And okay, you want to take it a bit further and you want to go bed restraints and you want to do some of the stuff from 50 Shades. Fuck yeah. People have been pretending that stuff doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think that the dark masculine needs to be like encouraged with other men with men, as in like that's where we need to start and focus everything on, because I think that that's secondary and tertiary and third, like layered back side effect stuff. We need to focus on that and actually focus on men actually cultivating and challenging each other. That's where it's at. I think that that's all we can control is actually at the core of what we're talking about is that primal, you know, urges in us to kill. They're actually in us to like, you know, that sort of flavor that if it's needed. And you were saying about Jordan Peterson's quote.
Before I go there, I want to acknowledge Lisa saying, don't use 50 Shades as an example of primal. And I think it's important to clarify. I think 50 Shades was accessing or was sort of bringing up for people stuff that was underneath and was unfulfilled. I don't think that dynamic of unconsensual stuff, I don't necessarily think the BDSM stuff is always super clean. And my personal, you know, sort of leaning on that is it is better in the container of a relationship where you are using those kind of modalities to help enhance an experience. But that whole, as you say, non-consensual aspect to it and manipulation, that's covert contracts, using a phrase that you've taught me.
Yeah, I think, yeah, which is what the primal stuff around like men sitting in circle with men. You know, I think activating all parts of ourselves that are like dormant, and you know, shame around accessing different parts. That's where you know, uncovering and having the whole human experience is at, I believe. And
100%.
you know, coming back to like there's men that are still something every day. I think that it's the fear around accessing other parts of that are dormant. That's
definitely
of I can't get a car service or emotional oil change. I still struggle with that myself, and as a default, you know, my programming. There's just no space for that. But, you know, as a human being, I think that we can go into all these different aspects that we aren't conditioned and taught. And I think that's the whole idea of coaching or circles, is to actually explore these parts that are not normally discussed or addressed or identified, or, you know, tools how to get out of it.
And I think accessing that part of ourselves and putting it into a healthy place is really important. But also understanding that there's a huge potential for power and incredible ability to do damage is part of it as well. Like understanding that you can destroy something and that you have the power to do it then gives you, or I've learned, the ability to step back and say, okay, that's the power I have. That's the sword I have at my side, but it's going to stay sheathed. It's going to stay there. I don't need to be the tyrant. And, you know, if you talk about the archetypes, which I think a lot of people are familiar with, you know, my go-to was in that aggressive side, on the tyrant side of the king. I'd shout.
I can imagine
that. My way or the highway, right? So that's where I would more often be. But I've had to learn. Yeah, look, that's it's probably something you and I have in common, right? We've got that aggression. But learning the power of actually keeping it at your side. And I think, and again, this is going to open up a can of worms, but I think that's the Jordan Peterson quote, that a harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man who has it under voluntary control. And that comment I put up on my Primal Man page, it was very triggering for a few people. For two people. 2 people were triggered. And I'd say probably about 30 or 40 people were in support of that comment, and they understood the meaning of the word, or what I think Jordan Peterson's intention was, the meaning of the word dangerous. I think it's a very different thing for someone to say that they're dangerous versus they're violent, or they're dangerous versus they're out of control. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's a nice guy syndrome right there.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of guys who, you know, I don't blame them really, because there's no space. There's no space to actually explore that part of them. And so if the anger does come out, like these guys you're saying that you're seeing in the shop, in the road with road rage, because they have no idea about their like the aggression, then it comes out really unhealthy, really unhealthy, really unhealthy. And this would lead to like domestic violence, because they have no control over their anger, their power.
Yep.
And it comes out everywhere. And
yep.
that comes down to, like, you know, catching the emotion, like I'm about to snap, I'm feeling angry, and then like going into like, okay, what do I need to do? Is it even this person? Go away and unleash it, or, you know, be responsible and whatever it takes. But we aren't taught this stuff, and then guys just snap because they're just they have no ability to catch themselves before they just react. And unfortunately, it's a side effect of not having proper mentorship and men's circles really every week, where, you know, at the Samurai Brotherhood, we actually unpack that stuff and embody that. And the discomfort that comes up with guys that have never experienced that, it's really uncomfortable for some guys, and it comes out, if they haven't got control over it, it comes out so unhealthy, and it would be terrifying for women to be around a guy that doesn't have control of his power. I'm speaking on behalf
100%.
of like a lot of.
And that, I think that's the piece that was concerning for women when they saw that comment. They just saw the dangerous, and they forgot the part about having it under control. So that quote from Jordan Peterson has to be taken in both parts, in my opinion. And having it under voluntary control means he is completely in control of himself. There's no risk of him flipping out and, you know, chopping his partner's head off. You know, there's no risk of it because it's under voluntary control. What I think, my personal opinion from the women and the feedback, I'd love to hear comments from the women, you know, in the comments here about what they think about a harmless man. Is that a man that they feel safe around? Is that a man they feel polarized by? If a man is harmless and the energy, and I've met these men. I've met these men in workshops. I've supported them to find their power and find their king, and find their animal. And you meet them, and their shoulders are slumped. Their eyes are like they don't meet your gaze. Their body language just feels like they're literally walking to their death. There's nothing looks alive or feels alive about them. But you see a man who's got his shoulders back. Jordan Peterson's first rule: stand up straight. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated for a man to be in his power. Walk through. My practice is to walk through a door. Whenever I walk through a door frame, I remind myself: are my shoulders back and am I standing up straight? Don't do it all the time, but it's just a good reminder for me. So that's a good one. And having that ability to actually stand physically in a space and occupy that space energetically. That's not an aggressive man. That's not a man who's gonna punch you out. But it's a man who stands in his power. And there's fuckloads of times when I'm not that guy. There's fuckloads of times when I'm the small man and still have conversations with my woman where I get triggered. Have conversations with my son where I'm not in my power. I 100%, you know that it's in all of us to be that small man, to go back to that energetically small man. But if you are a man who is completely integrated, you know that there is a super dangerous part about you, that you could fucking kill people, but you're not going to do it. It's under control. But energetically, you can know that that's there, and you can have met him. That's the fucking cool part, is when you've gone to a place where you've found the dark, and it's like, yeah, yeah, I've seen parts of myself. I've met him, and I could fucking kill people with that part of myself. If my family was threatened, if I had to, if I was put in that position, I'd go there. He's in there, 100%. But
I really hope no one. I really hope no one's jumped on right now. Just in that last part.
The headline for next week: Jason Blewett under investigation.
Right?
Claims of murderous intent published online.
Do you do any? Do you have do you have any processes like that in your men's circle?
Hell yeah. We've actually got a retreat this Saturday that is about releasing a lot of that repressed energy, a lot of that repressed rage. And it's about helping men who've never experienced it to actually find that part of themselves and to allow it to explode and in a safe container. So we've got a retreat on Saturday. It's called Sharpen the Spear, and we're going out into nature, and it's going to be incredible, immersive, all-day experience to release it, to harness it, and then to channel it, to create a way to put that energy and put that masculine fire and put that vision and that drive and direction and the leadership that men have around, creating a vision for their futures. The king having a clear picture in his life of what he wants for his family, where he wants to take his career, where he wants to take his purpose. And then having the warrior, the discipline that says, I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock in the fucking morning and I'm going to do it every day. I don't do that every day. I'm still working on enhancing my warrior. But then that lover that's just coming right in behind and saying, yeah, you know what? I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. The first thing I'm going to do when I wake up is roll over and kiss my queen. And then actually having that magician. And I love the magician because it's the least understood archetype, in my opinion. The magician, for me, is about spirituality and about being the medicine man in your family. And it's about being a leader of connecting to source and actually creating possibility and creating space and stillness for yourself and for other people. And I'll give you a really good example, really simple one. I went to a ceremony, a Native American ceremony, and one of the things that they asked us to reflect on is, have you got a relationship with water? And it was a really simple question. I thought, of course I do, man. I love water. It's great. It tastes really good. They say, no. Have you actually got a relationship with water? What is your relationship with water? And I have a practice, and I don't do it every morning, but I was in the habit of doing this for a good while. It was really powerful. Is actually before I even take the first sip of water in the morning, and just taking a moment and just setting the intention and the prayer of thanks and putting a vibration of gratitude to source, gratitude to the universe, gratitude for that moment. Bringing the water to your heart and then to your head, your third eye, and then drinking it, but only after you've recognized the life-giving bounty that it is. And to me, that's the magician. And I taught that to my family at the dinner table. I shared that beautiful ritual with my family. And that's my role as the medicine man, as the man that brings belief in spirituality and connection to source into a container of my family's meal and says, this is how I want to lead us into believing we're part of something bigger. So yeah, that's my little story about the magician. Have you done any work with the archetypes, man? Thanks, bro.
Yeah, it was quite interesting actually. One of the MKP weekends, there's a process where you literally say like where you think you are, and then like where the group thinks you are, and yeah, I said I was at a lower number than I thought I was, and yeah, all of everything is actually like balancing out a bit.
What do you mean by that, man? So when you say you're at a lower number, what do you mean, brother?
So I thought I was a bit lower in warrior than I was, but the group said I was higher than that. So it was just like, oh shit, okay, they actually see that is fully out there. And yeah, magician and macro thinking for me. My connection with God, universe, whatever the language that everyone has around it. You know, with meditation, like, it's just been like, that's like, I would never have done that ever if I hadn't had feedback or guidance or challenge from other men, which goes to like everything I'm doing. That's why I do it. Why I do all this is that, like, that has balanced me out a lot. Like, I can be really freaking intense, and so I need to do it even more. I need to meditate more and have silence more and appreciation for, you know, water now after that one. Got some here, but
one of my brothers, I just want to acknowledge on the comments, was sitting next to me in that ceremony, and he just said, submerging into the ocean after that ceremony, connected doesn't even come close. We both sat in the same ceremony where we were taught that ritual, and he went for a swim afterwards. Hey, Chris, love you, brother. Thank you for dropping in. Man, I completely align with what you're saying. And one of the realizations I've had recently, which I want to share with you, is around these archetypes, and actually what I believe is the relationship between what I call the 4 pillars. So in the Primal Man Project, I really started my journey around improving myself in relationship to my body, my mind, my heart, and my soul. And I started with the body because it was just the most obvious place. I was in a shit place and wanted to improve my life. I was like, okay, I'll start going to the gym, I'll start working out, I'll start eating healthier. And as my body got better and more healthy and more aligned, I found I was feeling better. My mood, my mindset was better.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, well, what do I actually want to achieve here? What am I trying to do? And so I started having more positive thoughts about what I wanted from my life. I started reading podcasts and audiobooks and going to workshops, and yeah, my mind was like, okay, fuck, I want to be in a positive mindset now, taking gratitude, doing a gratitude journal, and then manifesting. Okay, I want to write some stuff down that I want to achieve in my life. Okay, that's the mind. And then it was like, okay, heart, clearly got some wounds, clearly got some trauma. I needed to work on that stuff. So breath work, doing retreats, getting coaching, just being around people that express. Dude, that, like, we're at like 9 minutes from the end of this allocated time, and we're just scratching the surface, I think, of all the shit that we're going to go through. So let's commit here. Weekly series.
Oh, shit.
Next 2 hours is on the practices that we've used to get here, because I feel like we've only just even started to cover the journey. But I want to finish off the 4 and bring them back to the point that I was going to share with you, is in the heart, you know, having those wounds healed for me internally, you know, around the history, my relationship with my parents, my growing up, then allowed me to have more conscious relationships externally. So my heart inside then allowed my heart to go outside. So it's then, once my body's in a good state, my mindset's clear and positive, and I've got vision for my future, I've got a clear, cleaned emotional state, dealt with my wounds and trauma, dealt with my inner child, and then I've started to connect with tribe. Once those things are all aligned, it's amazing how soul just turns up. For me, you just having space and clarity and alignment and stillness, for me, created emptiness, and in the emptiness, in that void, was the peace. And in that peace, there's the soul. You know, the soul that understands its purpose, the soul that understands the wisdom. You know, when I ask a question of myself, the soul actually answers now, because I've got silence, you know, because I've got stillness in that space. And you know what's really cool? The warrior is the body. This is my understanding. Warrior is body. The king is the mind. The lover is the heart. And the magician is the soul.
Nice.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that fits. That fits. So the warrior is around discipline, and the warrior is around, you know, determination, and the body, and working out and getting physical and getting grounded and being in your body. You know, the king, for me, king's about leadership and vision and direction and future, and where are we going to go, and how are we being? And to me, that resonates around the mind. And the lover in the heart, that just doesn't need explanation. That just totally makes sense. And for me, spirituality, soul, and the magician. That's the misunderstood, like I said before, the misunderstood piece for the magician for me is actually the spiritual teacher, the sage. So this is like, I suppose, part of my developing philosophy in Primal, and I'll probably talk about that, some other time. But what do you think about it, man?
Yeah, nice. Oh, yeah, it's nice hearing different. It's cool to hear how you see things and modalities and your language. It's without language, we just like making grunts or sounds over a voice box of the exact same things. And it keeps coming back to the same things. And yeah, it's cool to have these sort of conversations, really, because I feel like we're like talking about the human experience rather than like getting a title or a accomplishment sort of thing. And like underneath it all is just like having community and that connection of like people around you to support you, encourage you, that want to see you win, real conversations, and exploring all parts of yourself as a human, and like as a human being, and your spiritual side as well. Like, who knows what's going to happen in the next few years with all this stuff. You want to make sure you've got a good relationship with whatever your belief is. But
well, it's a cool way to kind of to round out the conversation. I want to throw to you around what's and can you believe we've been speaking for an hour and 56 minutes?
I can.
It's gone like this. I feel like I just sat down 5 minutes ago. Such an awesome conversation. So much we've covered. We've covered so much ground, and yet I feel like we barely scratched the surface.
That's what Joe Rogan does. 2 hours, 3 hours, and it's all unedited.
Yes.
Glad that no one's going to edit this. No one better edit this and put on mainstream media.
Just
you can frame anything out of this chat.
I love Joe Rogan. I love it. So I'm just going to say some acknowledgements. Thank you, George. I love you, brother. Thanks for dropping in. Craig, good to see you on here. Emma, on behalf of Alex, you're a good woman, a great queen. Thank you for supporting your man. Lisa, thank you for dropping in. You've been awesome. Massive supporter. Trevor, really great and appreciate you being here, brother. All right, before anybody leaves, I want people to know about how they can connect with you. They found your website. What are you doing? You're running a men's circle?
Yeah, so with the one man, I didn't touch on other things that I'm doing. So, the one man, we're doing those workshops when all this stuff happens. As in like when it goes back to normal, if that's ever going to happen again. If people threw their TVs out, maybe we actually would go back to normal. So just putting that out there. I'm doing Zooms for my Facebook friends and stuff like that, Sundays, and Wednesday nights we've got them, and also there's other Zooms on part of that are starting on Thursdays and Tuesdays, and so it's just like pretty much literally every day of the week there's like Zooms and face-to-face men's circles, and Monday nights the Samurai Brotherhood. So literally whatever.
Awesome.
Wherever the
if somebody wants to reach out to you and find out about the work you're doing, you've got your website, obviously your Facebook page, and people can link and find you from here. I'll share a little bit about what Primal Man's up to at the moment, so people can find that. I mentioned the Sharpen the Spear retreat, which is on this Saturday. There are still spots left and still tickets available for people in the Brisbane area. It's going to be an amazing day. It's our first retreat, but it's going to be super powerful. I'm going to combine. Well, I won't tell you what I'm going to be doing. We're going to be out in nature. It's for men. It's incredible. Trust and love that it's going to be beautiful. Get on there if you can. I've got links for the event on the Primal Man Project page. I run an in-person men's circle every month, and we have one on this Sunday. It's in west of Brisbane, Pullen Vale area. It's going to be a powerful night on Sunday. We're going the retreat on Saturday. We're backing up with an in-person men's circle on Sunday. So it's it's a massive weekend of men's work. And yeah, if you are watching this from around Australia or not in the Brisbane area, I also run a Zoom men's circle every Sunday. Details on the Facebook page. So yeah, man, that's what you're doing. That's what I'm doing. Anything else to wrap up? You good?
No.
I want to acknowledge you, brother. I met you literally 3 days ago, and it's been a blast, brother. It's been such an awesome opening of my heart, an opening of my mind to the possibilities. You've shared awesome wisdom. You've been super vulnerable with me about your journey, and I feel like I found a brother that I'm going to be alongside for a long time, man. And whatever I can do to support what you're doing, it's helping more men. So I will be in your corner. I believe in what you're doing. And yeah, you're a fucking good man. And I'm glad I met you.
Cheers, man. Thanks for having us on. Support everything you're doing.
Awesome, brother. All right. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in. It's right on 9 o'clock. My queen has shared the link to the Sharpen the Spear, which is in the comments. Have a look if you're interested. We'd love to have you along. Thank you, everybody, for dialing in, and peace out. Love you, everybody. Good night. God bless.